Hi, I'm a Bible teacher. My passion is for New Testament Greek. I'm going to share with you a word that was lost in translation. If you have your Bibles with you, open up to 1 Corinthians chapter 4. I'm going to explain to you a little bit about what Paul is trying to communicate here in this first verse. 1 Corinthians was written to a church that was located in a seafaring town. The seaport was called Corinth. It was an ungodly city, full of prostitution, debauchery, licentiousness. It was a nasty city. And Paul's writing to this town, the seafaring town, and he uses a word in the first verse here of 1 Corinthians chapter 4 that if you were if you lived in Corinthia at the time, you'd know what this word was. And it's to communicate what a minister really is. Let's take a look. 1 Corinthians 4:1. Let a man so account of us as of the ministers of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. When I was growing up, I grew up in South Jersey where there were a lot of ministers in the 60s and 70s. And as a kid, whenever I heard the word minister, I always thought of someone who wore, a black shirt and a white collar and spent their days going to ladies' teas or only being seen on Sunday mornings during liturgies or sermons. And I always viewed the word minister as some weak Wilbur milquetoast of an individual who really was disconnected from the things of the world. And when Paul uses this word minister in verse 1 of 1 Corinthians 4, that's not what he's saying. In the Greek, that word minister is a compound word. A compound word is two words that are combined together to create an emphasis or a picture of what he's trying to communicate. And this word here, minister, is the Greek word huperetes. Huperetes, like I said, is a compound word. Huper, meaning under or below, and the word rates is the word rower. Remember what I told you. Corinth was a seafaring town. And Paul says to these people, we are under rowers of Jesus Christ. You see, an under rower was the slave who was in the lowest of the lows, in the bilge almost. And this under rower only had two jobs. First job was to listen for the captain's voice. Second job, guess what it is? It was to row. You see, huperetes, under rowers, weren't concerned about the weather. They weren't concerned about what other people thought of them. They weren't concerned about whether they had the more important job or not. They didn't. They were under rowers. And all they had to do was listen for the captain's voice and to row. Paul says here in 1 Corinthians 4:1, let a man so account of us as of the under rowers of Christ. If you're in the ministry, I sure do hope you have that heart attitude of an under rower. If you're not, I'd encourage you, get alone with God. Find out where He really wants you to be and how He wants you to behave. You're not important. None of us are. The only person who's important is Jesus Christ. He is our captain. We listen for His voice and we row.